Hey guys, it's me, Goral. Welcome back to my channel. Why is my voice so weird this morning? Today I'm here doing something not book related, which you might have been able to tell from the thumbnail. But if you couldn't, I'm going to be talking about the movies that I watched in January. This is something I did last year and kind of fell off of the wagon, but it's something I really love doing and I want to keep doing it. So here I am, I'm doing it. I'm setting the precedent to do this in 2020. So the first movie I watched this month was 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. So this is the second one in this franchise. The first one was just called 47 Meters Down. It was about two sisters. I'm pretty sure Mandy Moore was in that. And they are in a shark cage that accidentally gets left on the bottom of the ocean floor. Like the chain snaps, it falls down, and all that. So I watched that a while ago and it was just okay. Then I saw this one and I read the synopsis and it said something about an ancient underwater city and I was like, excuse me? Because that is so my fucking jam. So I watched it. It was directed by Johannes Roberts, who also did the most recent Strangers movie, which was okay. And he also directed the first 47 Meters Down, along with some other movies, but none that I was really familiar with. So the movie though. It's about this group of girls. They are high school aged and the two main characters, they're in a blended family. So they're stepsisters, like newly stepsisters. And the father of one of them is an archaeologist of some sort. I'm not really sure if they ever tell us like blatantly what he is, but he's found this underground Mayan city and he's working on kind of uncovering it. And at the very, I'm sorry, I feel like I have an eyelash in my eyeball. Watch me jiggle my eyeball for 10 minutes. At the very beginning of the movie, there's kind of this ominous moment where the dad, he's talking about how they uncovered this tunnel that had been previously like sealed off, and he's found a great white tooth. And he's saying like, oh, there's no way sharks could have been in the cave. It's the tunnels are way too narrow and all this stuff. So later, the sisters and their friends decide to go dive into this cave without permission. It's something that they shouldn't have done. They didn't talk to anybody or tell anybody where they were going. They were actually supposed to be going on like a glass bottom boat tour to see like great whites. So a whole lot of shark in this movie. And they get into the tunnel. They get their scuba gear on, they go diving, they get through this tunnel, and they decide to just go to the first room. Just the first room. And it's gorgeous in there. There's all this beautiful stonework and stuff. And well, one of them bumps into a stone statue, which like topples other statues. So it's like making all this noise and there's all this like sediment that comes up then. And I don't know much about diving, but it seems kind of maybe common sense that sediment in the water isn't gonna settle as quickly as it would. So it's very like cloudy and foggy, and then suddenly someone gets attacked by a shark. And I think that's all I'll tell you guys. I really liked this one. I thought it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of action. It was maybe a little bit absurd in some parts, just like over the top. You know that this wouldn't really happen, but I mean, that's what horror movies or thrillers are supposed to be like. So it was really fun. I would recommend it, especially if you like shark movies, which I do. I love shark movies. This was one of the better ones that I've seen recently. I also watched, actually me and Zach on New Year's Eve, we went and saw The Rise of Skywalker, And this might be a controversial stance to take on it, because I know a lot of like longtime fans of the franchise have not been thrilled with the way that some of the newer movies have gone, but I fucking liked it a lot. I thought this last movie, no spoilers at all, I'm not going to tell you the plot, but I thought this last movie was so action-packed. It was just like bam, 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 bam. There's no slow parts. It was so much fun, and I'm really glad that I got to see it in the theaters, because I think that's the first Star Wars movie that I've ever seen in theaters. So I was glad that I got to see this last, I know there's going to be more Star Wars movies, but the last one in this trilogy of trilogies, I got to see it in the theater, and it was so much fun. So I would recommend it. Another really good one I watched this month, and holy shit, you guys, this movie is bananas. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it before. It was devastating, the entire movie. Oh my god. But this was called The Nightingale. It came out in 2018 and was directed by Jennifer Kent, who was the woman who also directed The Babadook, which is one I really loved as well. This is not a horror movie though. This is like more of like a historical gut punch. Like, it's so fucking sad the entire time. It takes place in 1825, and I don't know a lot of the history of this period in this spot because it takes place in Tasmania. And I don't know the history of like the colonialism and all that, so I'm not sure how historically accurate this is, but I would assume that she would try to be as historically accurate as possible. So it's about this Irish immigrant named Claire, and she is working for the army. She's not in the army, but she cleans at this outpost, she cooks at this outpost, and her husband is, I feel like he's like a smith of some sort. I believe I saw him doing stuff like that. It's very contentious between her little family, she has a young daughter as well, and the soldiers at the outpost. She was an ex-criminal who was kind of saved, quote unquote, by this army captain, and because he quote unquote saved her from prison or wherever she was, he has got it in his head that she owes him and he can do whatever he wants with her. And I'm sure you can imagine what that means. So there is a lot of more than one graphic rape scenes in this. So if you can't handle that, I wouldn't recommend watching this at all. It was hard to watch. Eventually something happens. There is a crime against her family, and she ends up tracking this captain through the wilderness in Tasmania. She kind of enlists the help of an Aboriginal tracker named Billy, who is such a sweet soul. And of course, being that this takes place in 1825 during a colonial period, obviously the indigenous people in Tasmania were not treated right. They were hung. I mean, they were just so mistreated, and even the main character in this, she is not without faults in that aspect. She definitely doesn't treat her companion Billy right at all, and so that's hard to watch, and it's just like all around really hard to watch. But it was a masterpiece, I think, since a lot of this takes place. The imagery was always very breathtaking, I think because of the contrast between these colonially dressed, like drab, dragging clothes, like sopping wet dress woman, and like the beautiful luscious jungle that they're tracking this man through. And I don't really want to tell you any more plot than that. There are so many trigger warnings for this movie. And I feel like the trigger warnings themselves might be somewhat spoilery. So maybe individually, if you think you want to watch this movie, maybe just look up a short summary and that will help you decide whether or not you want to watch this. But I really do think that it's an important story, and I don't know. I'm really interested in the history of that now, of the colonizing of Tasmania. Man, white people fucking suck. That's all I can say after watching that one. I also watched a couple of documentaries this month. One was called Sick School, and this was on Amazon Prime. And just quickly, it's about a school that is by like a landfill, and there have been lots of children who have been sick and teachers who have gotten cancer and died like over their teaching career and stuff like that. And it was kind of interesting. It was interesting. I think it says a lot of like the way that money influences people rather than like humanity influencing them. But it was not shot very well. You could tell it was low budget. So like it was good, but I think it could have been better. But like I feel shitty saying that because like it's about these kids who are sick because they're like breathing in like burning chemicals every fucking day. But it's so sad. And yeah. I also watched The Woman Who Wasn't There, which is currently on Amazon Prime as well. This was a rewatch for me. It's about, so like I rewatch documentaries a lot actually when I find ones that I really like. But this one was about a woman who posed as a survivor of 9/11. She said that she was at the Twin Towers when the planes crashed into them, but she of course was not. So that was really interesting. Like I said, it's one that I've rewatched, so it's one that I find really interesting, at least. Yeah, just like, why do people do that? And how do the people who've been duped by her feel after they find out, and like all this stuff? It's an interesting one. And I also watched one that's on Netflix called A Gray State, which is about a man who was filming this like libertarian movie about like what's gonna happen when the government comes for us, kind of a thing. And in the very beginning you learn that on right after Christmas in like, I think it was like 2013, him and his wife and his young daughter are found dead in their house. So it was pretty interesting. I don't really find the parts about his movie that interesting. I just don't care about that, I guess. But it was really sad when they kind of delve into what might have happened to the family and stuff like that. So it was, like I said, interesting as far as the documentary goes. Not one of my favorites though. I don't think I'll rewatch it. And like, holy shit, that comes off as so callous because 3 people have died. But I'm just talking about the movie itself, not what happened to them. That's not boring, of course. And the last movie I want to talk about here has been a buzz lately. Everywhere I keep hearing people talking about watching it, and that is The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. This was directed by Robert Eggers, who also did The Witch. So if you liked The Witch, I think you would probably like this because it's kind of that like slow, quiet burn, like what the fuck is going on? And like with a ambiguous ending. And this is about a young man who takes this job as, I believe they called him Wickies, and he is supposed to stay at this lighthouse for 4 weeks with like the lighthouse master, I guess. And they take shifts, like one has the day shift, one has the night shift. They need to make sure that the lighthouse is running at full capacity at all times. And this takes place in the late 1800s. So, I mean, as you can imagine, it's rough. I don't know. I don't really know what to tell you besides that. Things start to get kind of weird, of course. There is this really fun juxtaposition between who these men are like during the day and who these men are at night, and it was really worth a watch. It had a highly ambiguous ending. That might be my one complaint, because like, while I don't need all the pieces to the puzzle, like I need enough to be able to like see what the picture is supposed to be, you know what I mean? So there was like some things at the end where I was like, how did we get here? And what's in the fucking lighthouse? So it was really fun though. It was long, and sometimes that, for some reason, long movies can make me anxious sometimes. I'm like, oh god, this has got to end sometime soon. But this one was so much fun. It was very dreary, and it's shot in like black and white, so I don't know, it's just so good. The cinematography was so fucking excellent. Like, they used the light in all these crazy ways. It was shot so well. And Willem Dafoe is the craziest fucking, like, has he always been a lighthouse captain? Because I think that's just what he's meant to be. He's supposed to be an 1800s lighthouse dude. And there's lots of like really fun close-up ramblings where he's got his fucking crazy eyeballs out, and it's just, it was great. I really loved it, despite maybe not understanding what the fuck the ending is supposed to get at. So, I don't know. Definitely watch that if you liked The Witch. I think it's worth the watch. It was like, there's some good like actual funny parts in it too. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but it made me laugh, and it was just fun and weird, and I think one of my new favorite movies. So, yeah. Robert Pattinson, I don't think I've ever seen a movie that he's been in, because he was in Twilight, and I kind of stayed away from that. But he was so good. Oh, I guess he was in Harry Potter, one of the Harry Potter movies, and I watched that. But he was so good in this. He's a great actor. So is Willem Dafoe, but we already knew that. That's all I have to tell you about though. Those are the movies I watched, and some okay ones, some really great ones. Actually, a lot of really great ones this month. So I will see you next month with what I watched at the end of February. Let me know if you've watched any of these and liked them or didn't. I really want to know what you thought about the Lighthouse if you watched it, because I can't stop thinking about it. That's all though. Thanks guys. I will see you later.